Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah O'Hearn. I am the Director of Product here at Moneythink. And today we are going to share with you some of the work that we've been doing over the past several months to improve DecidED, both for students and advisors. And I'm going to start with little overview for Zoom, just recommending that people mute themselves and use the chat when you do have questions. Feel free to send us a question at any time. We have several people from Moneythink here that can answer your questions. I'd like to introduce our team, although this is just a few members of the team that have been working on DecidED. And any of us are available to answer questions via email. You can reach out to us. My email is sarah@moneythink.org. Feel free to reach out. Moving along, I'll get started on today's presentation. Our agenda for today is that I'm going to recap everything we presented in June at our last new features presentation. That includes student features such as being able to compare their letter results and receive in-app notifications, as well as new advisor features, a new role for advisors, and the ability for advisors to download reports and letters. Additionally, we have some new features that we worked on this summer that we're excited to share with everybody. And so I will get started with those. Just a reminder that we tend to color code things at DecidED, where the green color is typically when we're talking about an advisor related feature, and the blue color is typically when we're talking about a student related feature. Sometimes some of the student features also are available to advisors. And this is just another quote from one of our students talking about their experience using DecidED last year and how much they appreciated the help that they got from being able to evaluate the affordability of their college award letter options. So talking about June's meeting, the first thing that we talked about was that students now have the ability, not only can they download PNGs or JPEGs, they can download PDFs, and they can immediately preview their results to check the accuracy of the award translation that DecidED just did. So they're able to check that, and they're also able to click on View Award Letter. And when they do that, they're able to compare the letter that they just uploaded against the results that DecidED is sharing with them. It could be that at that point they have a question for us, or they see a problem with the way that the award was translated, in which case they can report an error. And that ability is always available. They can always look at the award letter later and always report an error to us. And if so, they just can choose a topic regarding which error type they see, whether it's related to their costs or related to their award or something else related to the results that they see. And we respond to those pretty quickly over email. But we did install in-app notifications. So when, for instance, a student submits an error report, and if we respond, they will see an in-app notification within DecidED, as well as getting an email notification. Other examples of in-app notifications for students are that some of the letters students upload are not able to translate automatically. And if that's the case, once we've manually reviewed the letter, we send them a notification, and they'll receive that notification over email, but they'll also see it the next time they log in to DecidED. We added a new advisor role. Initially, we just had admins and advisors, but we recognized that some of our users wanted to have a more limited advisor role, either because they didn't want the advisors to have to see all the other students in the org, or they just wanted to limit access across the org. So the limited access advisor role is only able to work with the students who are in the groups they're assigned to. And that means they don't have access to every group in the organization, only the ones that the administrator has assigned to them. And now an admin or an advisor who's working with a student can download any letter that that student has uploaded to their DecidED account. So if the advisor wants to double check our results, they're able to do that as well. And they can also download detailed reports. So we have this export CSV button on the main advisor dashboard. And when you click that button, you get a choice of 2 different reports. There is a report that's just a summary of all of the students in your cohort, and that would just tell you the number of schools each student has added, the number of letters they've uploaded, and how many of their options are either affordable or semi-affordable. You can also download a detailed report that lists every single college that each student has added and provides detailed financial information that we've seen from the letter that they've uploaded or from the estimated costs that we haven't decided. So that's always available to admins or advisors. So now I'm going to talk about some of the newer features that we added since June. And the biggest one is that we've changed the way that people log into DecidED, both for students and advisors. And originally, when you logged into DecidED, you were asked to enter your email and we sent you a one-time code, but we got user feedback that people prefer to save a password again with their email. So that's what we've changed it to, which is a more typical way for logins. The thing to note here is that if you already have an account with DecidED, this screen will look different to you, and what you should do is click the sign up button. Even though you're already signed up and your account is still active, you have to click the sign up button because then you verify your account. So you'll click sign up, you'll create a password, and that's also true of new users, and then you'll be asked to verify your account, which is true for every user, new or current. Once an existing user does this one time, then they'll just be able to log in with their password. And for new users, either way, you get an email asking you to confirm your account. And after you confirm your account, if you're a new user, you enter the rest of your account information. But existing users from the 2020-2021 school year who've already formed DecidED accounts, you'll go through all those steps to create a password and confirm your account, but you won't see this screen because we already have that information. We'll just take you directly to your dashboard. So for students, some of the improvements that we made was that we've added some more information about each college on their college profile page. That includes, we added city and state because we recognize that there are colleges like a St. Mary's that exist in many different states. And we also wanted to make it as easy as possible for students to navigate any links that they might need while they're evaluating their colleges. So we added the link to the online application form, as well as the link to the admissions office and the financial aid office. We anticipate that students may look at DecidED and at their colleges on DecidED at different points in their journey to college. They might be just evaluating colleges initially for costs and majors, and then they might be evaluating their award letters later in the year. And so they'll have different needs at different points. We also did add college majors to each college profile. So students, if they haven't searched any majors, we just highlight the top 3 majors at that school. What are the most popular topics that students are majoring in? But then students can also search and add their own majors if there's a different topic that they want to focus on. And that makes it easy for them to compare across all their colleges. So that is the biggest new feature that we have, which is now students are able to compare their colleges side by side. And that looks a little bit like this. I'm gonna show you this in a live view. So this student has 3 colleges added, and you can see this college is a somewhat affordable option. I've got a link to the map, which it takes me to the bottom of the page. I have links to the offices and the admission form. I have the top 3 majors of that school, but I could search and see, well, is there journalism? No. Oh yeah, so I can add journalism, and now that's my major. And now I can compare that to the other colleges that I'm looking at. And you can see in this case, I have added an award letter for this college, but I have not yet added award letters for these 2. But either way, I can still compare the graduation rate. I can compare things like the diversity on campus across all 3. And finally, I can compare the college costs and the life budget. And once I've got grants and scholarships for all 3, I'll be able to compare the college bill. So that's what Compare View does. The other thing that is new about this view is that you can actually choose your favorite school from this list. So if I decide that I'm most excited about going to San Luis Obispo, I put a star there and now it's in my favorite spot. And San Francisco State and San Jose are still here, and I can drag and drop them and put them into different orders if I want to. So that's what this slide is talking about, basically. In this example, this student has a lot of colleges. It's one of my test accounts, and they have a lot of different affordability options, but you can drag and drop those thumbnails. You can star a college to add it as your favorite, and you can access that at any time by clicking the compare button in any college profile. So now I want to talk a little bit about some of the new features that we have for advisors. The big one that we added is that advisors can notify students in-app about any questions, reminders, anything they want to catch up with students about. So the way that works is you can notify all of your students at once, or you can message an individual student. And I'll just show what that looks like live. So this is an advisor who also has 7 students, but I could filter this list and I could say, I only want to talk to the students who have somewhat affordable options. And then I can notify those 3 students and just say, have you written an appeal yet? And send them that message. Students will receive that message here in their inbox notification. I think I don't have this student that I'm logged in as here to show you, but you can kind of see what those notifications look like. Oh, I haven't sent notifications to that student yet. So in any case, once I receive that, I also will receive the notification via email. That's our coming soon feature. And the other feature is that I can, so this is just a screenshot to show you what the notification looks like. It does include your name, it includes the date that you sent the notification, and it has a new highlight if the student hasn't seen it since they last logged on. The other new feature for advisors is that they can now save notes about each student. So how that works is, I will show you this live as well. I can open up, so first of all, I'm going to unfilter my lists, and I can open up any student that I'm looking at and say, I want to make a note about this person. And so I will click here and I will say, Ronnie still has to decide which school he is going to enroll in. Sent him a notification about accepting his awards on, 04/15, let's say. You can save that. And then later on, you can come back and that note will still be there and you can keep adding to it, delete it, do whatever you need to do. Right now, those notes are only viewable by the person who's written the note, the advisor who's written the note. They're never viewable by the student. We are going to add a feature to make them viewable by other advisors if you choose to share them. So just as a recap, you can write and edit and update any note, and currently only the advisor who enters that note has access to them, but eventually you can share them with other advisors. They're not meant to be shared with students. We figure that you can use the notifications to message students. So those are all of the things that we added as new features this summer. We have a couple other features that we're working on this month and next that I'll just give you some insight into. As I mentioned, the in-app notifications will also be delivered over email. You will be able to share student notes between advisors. We're adding additional functionality to our college search. So we're going to add filters such as graduation rate or the location that they're most interested in, type of college that they're interested in, and then also just navigating between colleges as a student. It's a little confusing right now because there's just this first initial, and of course there's a ton of U's. So we're changing that and adding college logos, and that should appear sometime in the next month. And on that note, I am completed, that's all of our new features, but we do have a guest here with us today. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen while we talk with Miguel. And John, do you want me to lead the questions with Miguel?
I can start us off. Yeah, thank you for joining us, Miguel from Richmond Promise. I want to just open it up by just asking you, what was your experience and original plan for DecidED, and what actually happened last year as when we first launched and when we started our collaboration?
Yes, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Miguel Molina. I'm the current Associate Director of Programs with the Richmond Promise, which is a citywide scholarship program based out of Richmond, California. Currently working with over 1,500 students that are in college, but we aim to recruit students when they are 12th graders, right at that moment when they're starting to apply for 4 years in community colleges and financial aid. So we see a lot of students. We work with about 700 to 1,000 students at the 12th grade level with our local school district. So that means that there's a lot of questions coming in. There's a lot of students that I have to take notes of, and we really didn't have a platform. We don't have cohort models at the high schools until they get into college. But because we service a lot of schools and a lot of students, we found the need to partner with an organization like Moneythink to be able to provide a hub for us as advisors who work in the schools to track our students and measure their success, particularly in this case, measuring their financial aid access was pretty important. So our original goal was to partner up with Moneythink to test out the platform for the first year, to embed a series of workshops in the spring that give the students a little bit more information about what a financial aid award letter consists of, and then individually connect with the students one-on-one to go kind of on a case-by-case scenario and explain to them how the tool works, the figures, what's free gift aid and what's loans, and what their gaps were. So that was our original idea. And I think it really played out the way we wanted to. Of course, being virtual was a huge challenge with anything going on, especially when you're trying to start something new. So finding the time is very difficult, because as a working professional who works from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and with a coordinator who works from 11 to 7, it's still not enough time in a day to connect with students, given that they're in class probably from around 9 to 3 p.m., right? So there's not really a huge gap there for them to be able to connect with me or with our Richmond Promise coordinator one-on-one to use the tool. It does require a little bit more explaining, since it's the first time that they're getting acquainted with the system. So an appointment that, if we were in person, would have probably been like 15 to 30 minutes, would definitely at least take 45 minutes, right? So that we ensure we have all the information. We take the screenshot of the financial aid award letter accurately, we upload it, and then all the numbers populate afterwards. But the students definitely did get the introductory workshops. They were able to be exposed to the ins and outs of financial aid awards. They were able to be exposed to DecidED as an app, all the wonderful guides that are on the website as well. And then they were able to connect with me, and based on some of the records there that were compiled over the last year, we definitely saw that some students were able to formalize themselves better with the tool and be able to use it to its maximum potential. And other students, for them, it was just kind of like an introductory space for them to learn about it and kind of get to work with the tool a bit. But I would say it was very successful for its first year, and I'm very excited to move into our second year working with Moneythink and DecidED. And we're actually going to be hosting a workshop tomorrow. So instead of working with students in the spring, we want to start working with students in the fall, so that if they get exposed to DecidED earlier, then they realize that there might be some big gaps that some schools are thinking of applying to, right? Maybe Arizona State isn't as viable as they thought when they were 11th graders, right? Maybe they're starting to look more at the public schools with all the Cal grants that are available. Or maybe they find some private schools somewhere across the country that can offer them full rides. So we're definitely super excited to get started earlier with students, so that they can take into consideration how financial aid works and how it plays a pivotal role, right, in accessing higher education.
Yeah, thank you for that in-depth share out. And I think that just highlights to the variety of programs that we have and partner needs that you're kind of explaining through that. On that line of question, what would you think maybe is a good first step for those who are starting to use DecidED that they could first initially take from your learning experiences, going through it in the middle of the year versus starting now, right at the start of it?
Yeah, I think one thing that would be awesome to do for any organization that's trying to look into using the tool is definitely familiarize the community they're working with the application, and doing something similar to what Richmond Promise is doing and College is Real is doing with Moneythink, where we're hosting an introductory session that is open to any student really, but our primary audience will be students who attend our local set of schools here in West Contra Costa. And that workshop will introduce to them the basics of financial aid, the basics of financial aid award letters, and I think more importantly, introducing them to the application and all the wonderful information that's stored on the website and the tool. So I think for a community that's trying to get started, get working with DecidED, I think that's a great way to introduce students to the tool, introduce staff, counselors, advisors, teachers, and get them oriented with it. And then they could start playing with the tool in the fall and working with students, getting activities in class, or they're part of a college access program, having them utilize the tool with a couple school sites as case studies, right? So then they can start thinking about it, getting mentally prepared. So by the time that they fill out their FAFSA, which should open up soon, then they get to see the direct correlation of how Pell Grant shows up on a financial award letter, right? So I think having some informational sessions would be important. And then from there, they can gauge to see the interest, because at the beginning, they might be thinking, well, are the students going to use it? Are they going to take advantage of it? And trust me, that was a question that I was thinking about too, because, capacity and everything is, a reality. But once students got introduced to the tool, they wanted to use it right away, meet with me one-on-one. So the demand will definitely be there. It's just introducing your students to it, to the concept of it, especially for youth, because youth are more handsy than us. Let's be real. They love being on the computer. They love going in and doing their own set of research and really finding the information on their own, instead of it being constantly shoved down their throats, right? Through the different programs that they might be a part of, or different classrooms. So the tool does give them that ability, that if you have a lot of those students that just are go-getters and getting that information on their own, they can find all that information on DecidED and kind of run with it. And once March and April come around, when they have to choose a 4-year or community college, then they're more ready to make a formal decision on that, right? Because they have a better understanding of it. So I'd say this is the perfect time to meet with John, to meet with Mary, to meet with the whole team, and really start thinking about having an informational session with your staff, with your team, with your students, and really introduce them to the tool and get them started earlier as opposed to later. Because the very first year we worked with Moneythink with DecidED was last year, and we introduced it to the students in March. So there was a huge influx in April of students coming to us, right? Like, let's connect for 30 minutes on Zoom. I really want to use the tool. You're like, wow, a lot of the students were finding out that some of the schools that were considered their dream schools, right, were really out of the way financially to be able to afford, especially right now with COVID and everything, right? So I think for them, they gave us a feedback that, I wish I would have known, like in October, November, not necessarily not getting my hopes up, but to start thinking about other scholarships I should be applying for, so that I can make up the gap, or at least mentally prepare my family, myself for loans and what all that may look like, instead of having to make those decisions for like 2 weeks notice, right, before the SIR deadline on May 1st, which typically is always on that date. But yeah, getting started is always earlier the better, especially right now that there isn't a huge demand for financial aid applications. They haven't even opened up yet. A lot of scholarships are barely starting to open up. So that gives a lot of leeway to start introducing financial aid to students at this moment in the year.
Yeah, thank you. I want to give props too as well. It's been great working with RP, because you already had your activity set up, so you made it really easy for us to fit in seamlessly, but also just gave us the outline of what you needed to support your activity. So again, we want to highlight with our component and partnership, it's never to have programs and advisors have more work to do, but it's how can we ease the workload, how can we streamline it, and then support the buildup for those programs that want to build out and have a different component maybe they don't have the capacity for. On that line, I do want to just ask again, and then I'll open it up to anyone else for any other further questions. Did you see between the partnership and then the tool itself save you and maybe some staff some time as far as the administrative parts of it, chasing down students, or maybe even trying to collect a lot of data that you would have had to do by hand from previous model years versus last year, and then planning for this year?
Yes, no, it definitely helped save us a lot of time. Before we partnered with DecidED and Moneythink, we didn't keep track of students like financial aid award letters at all. What we mainly were holding ourselves accountable for was ensuring that our students were filing a FAFSA. You file a FAFSA, great. Fill up your scholarship application, you're good to go. Just let us know what school you're going to. Here's your check. By the way, based on your information you filled out, make sure you get your Pell Grant, make sure you get your Cal Grant because you're eligible for that in case you didn't know what it meant. Of course, that's not the best way to approach things because ultimately the more you grow as an organization, the more services you want to offer to students. So we're like, we need to start going more in depth and really be intentional of letting our students know. It's like, hey, by the way, if you're going to this school, you're looking at like 10K out of pocket, or hey, by the way, this other school's offering you a lot more financial aid. Don't knock it off the list just because the name isn't there, right? Or it doesn't have that prestige yet. Likewise, when we started partnering Moneythink and then we decided we have the hub there, you can log on there and see what students have uploading their financial award letters. So I can kind of see what students are more interested in really working with us and taking advantage of the service that we offer to support them and advise them like what their best options are. So it definitely made it easy. The information is tracked there. Students are go-getters, will run with it and definitely invest more time in the tool. And more than that, just the information that's available through all the guides, I think is wonderful because then it allows students to just kind of do their own reading and do their work on their own time, because it's right. Like we work with over 1,500 students at a college level, but when we're looking at the students that we're going to be onboarding every year directly from high school, that's at least 500 students. And you're talking about 2 Richmond Promise staff members for 500 students. Just for that time alone, it is definitely a lot. So our goal is kind of more to teach the students how to use it. They venture on their own. We go back in there. We see what students worked, utilize it, which ones didn't. But ultimately, we want to make sure that they're being the ones that are learning for themselves and being an advocate. Because one of the big things that I mentioned to students, like, hey, I could break it down for you by the dollar, by the cent, by the 5 payment plan per semester, like my sister does at USC. But ultimately, you're going to be the one making the choice whether or not you want to go to school or not. So I want you to utilize the tool to inform your own decision process, not me being the one who's going to assess it like a lawyer and tell you what to do. So ultimately, that's kind of like the approach we like to take at Richmond Promise. And it definitely makes it super accessible. So I would always encourage to promote student advocacy and start preparing them to be their number one defender in college, because they're going to be the ones that have to go to the financial aid office to ask for more information. I can't do that for them. They won't even let me in the financial aid office. When I have a student that has a FAFSA issue, I can't call FAFSA and ask for them. It's something that's not legal. So it's also important to start letting them know that, hey, these are the tools. These are how you use them. You need to start taking a little bit of ownership on yourself. We're here to guide you. But ultimately, this is going to be your choice. Use this information to guide you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I just want to also just pose one question that came from the audience. And then I believe Sarah also has one more to follow up after that. From the audience, we have a question asking, have you considered using Moneythink and DecidED in other ways? For example, how have parents responded?
Yes, I mean, that the reaction we had from students was a big indicator why. I was talking to John over the summer, like, let's do something in the fall. And let's try to get parents in the mix. So we're hosting a webinar tomorrow and advertise it to parents as well so that they can join the session, because a lot of students, when they joined in last spring, their parents joined in. I communicated to students mainly through the information I get from the school district. So of course, I don't send to the parents emails, but a lot of parents were super involved. So they wanted to join the sessions and get to know a little bit more about the process. And they let us know that they would like to be more involved in the future. So for this upcoming recruitment cycle for us, we're like, we need to get the parents more involved. Let's host an info session in the fall. Let's invite them. They're welcome to ask questions, because ultimately, the fact is that for many of our students, the parents would be the ones who had to take up the bigger financial burden, right? So they definitely want to be involved as much as possible to better understand how financial aid has changed. Because financial aid, if you're an expert 10 years ago, you're not an expert now, unfortunately. Things just change all the time. So we definitely want to make sure that folks are aware of what the updates are for the Pell Grants, what the FAFSA even looks like, what the California Dream Act looks like, especially for our families that are going to have to be applying for that application. And loans too have changed a lot. So I think this will provide a great space for them. And that's why I'm encouraging all the new programs that are looking into partnering up with DecidED is to start thinking about incorporating some informational sessions earlier on. So it gives you more time to work with parents. Because working with parents from now on, from September, where we're at right now, all the way up until May, when they have to choose their college, it really allows parents to start preparing a little bit more. And more importantly, one of the things that we're doing for this workshop is we're also inviting families from younger grade levels, from 10th and 11th grade families, so they can start thinking about it. Because really, funding a child's education is something that not only takes funds, but it also takes strategic planning from years prior. So I think getting families involved early on is definitely better. And for any program that has college counselors or college advisors that are working at particular school sites, I think also for them being familiar with this application tool will allow them to inform their students better when it really comes to thinking about financial awards. Because that's something that really, to be honest, from my experience of working almost 5 years in college access, really kind of gets ignored a lot of the time. The goal is to get the student to UC Berkeley, to UCLA, XYZ, right? But the financials are kind of just always ignored. They're like, oh, if they got into Berkeley and they go to Richmond High, they're probably going to get a full ride. Well, that's not always the case, right? It depends on your family income and everything. So it's important to really not forget about that piece, because that piece is ultimately what drives a lot of students last minute to be like, you know what, I can't do this. I'm just gonna take it easy and I'm gonna start up a community college. It's totally fine. But if the student had that information maybe a year prior, then maybe they could have had a plan laid out with their family and their friends to make something happen. So I think it's important that we don't ignore that part of the college trajectory, because it's always overlooked, in my opinion.
So Miguel, my question for you is, as the product director, I'm very curious if there was one thing you could request of us. What would you request? Like, what are the things that are still sort of pain points for you as you are working on this issue, especially because you had a whole experience last year and now you see how we're growing and changing things a little bit, trying to incorporate feedback that we get from users like you. But is there anything that you are saying, I wish they would do this?
I think there's so much information there with the guide hubs. There's just so much wonderful information there. I think it'd be great. And this would definitely have y'all going out of your way. But I think a lot of the things that catch advisors or teachers or students' attentions is having like a timeline of key dates. Like, okay, by October, the students should have 3 UCs, 3 CSUs, 3 privates that they're going to be applying to. Make sure to use the DecidED hub to find out what your financials are going to be like. By November something, make sure your applications are turned in by March 2nd, your FAFSA, little things like that could make it easier to then hyperlink those guys, because there's just so much wonderful information on there. I don't want it to go unused, because I look through the guides and I'm looking through them and I'm like, wow, like I'm just pinging them to students. I'm like, here's your answer. You'll find it right here. And I think that would be a great way for y'all to use all those hours of work that you have been putting into creating those specific guide hubs for each single topic and incorporating them to like a master list, where then you can have one for advisors where they can like see what they should be feeding to their students using those guide hubs. Maybe you can have one to students if they directly want to just access them together at DecidED. That could be a way to utilize that information, because that's what I'm looking at that I think can be taken to the next level. I think for the information storing that's taking place inside the logins for advisors and all that, I like all the new wonderful tools that were introduced today and updates. I think that's definitely going to make a huge difference with communication. Being able to communicate with students, I think, is something that's very important for advisors to be able to do in a matter of seconds, right? And not having to pull a master list of 150 emails and then BCC everybody, right? We all want to be on that like Salesforce mode where we can just communicate to our cohort immediately. So I think that's definitely going to be super helpful. But I would definitely consider maximizing all your guides that you have, because there's that is so much wonderful information that's already created there.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all the insightful information you've been providing us. I know we are always proud and happy to shout out Richmond Promise and all the great work you guys are doing as champion partners for us, but also just the work that you guys are doing is amazing within the local community that we're at. So we're super excited to keep growing our collaboration. And I just want to take another time to just thank you again for taking the time to let our future partners and current partners also know the work that you're doing. That's very important and critical. And then how we're collaborating, how we want to do this within the larger ecosystem, which is where I think we're unified. And we're seeing it happen currently with RP and College is Real working together within the district, within the county that we're in. We'd love to see that happen more often across the other areas. So I would definitely say not only reaching out to us, but reaching out to Richmond Promise and other organizations that are looking to collaborate across different programs, because we've seen a lot of duplication. And what you're showcasing for us is how can we streamline a lot of our efforts so that we don't waste resource, we don't waste energy, we don't waste the important time that staff have, which is very valuable. All right, for the next part we can go to, again, that was just a quick sampling of our partners. We want to highlight a couple other ones additionally, like One Goal Bay Area that we work with, as well as CAP and Taco Bell Foundation, Live Moss Scholarship. We've also partnered with school districts like Green Dot Public School. Again, to reiterate, Moneythink can help you as a future partner or current partner by offering different tiers of support. If we go on to the next slide. So if you need more support, such as training for your advisors or a specific workshop just for your students, you can contact me at jtamrat@moneythink.org so we can talk more about what level of support you need. And just to give you a recognition of the types of partners and the support that we've utilized in the past, for high school partners, some of them are using DecidED to support them in tracking their 4-year bound students. Again, this can be really useful and can be led by the College and Career Office or by the high school counselors when they're advising high school seniors, and all of their staff will be able to triage the student caseload to make sure more students are not falling through the cracks and they're getting the support that they need. And then just like the example we just had with Richmond Promise sharing their experience and their usage, we know that many of our college access partners have varying comfortability, expertise, or even potentially capacity when it comes to financial aid planning, as Miguel just talked about, and then the support that goes along with it, especially if you're a program who might have a limited number of staff, but you're servicing a lot of students, right? So for partners who have potentially already have a financial aid planning curriculum, one such example is One Goal built into their program. We've seen our partners use DecidED to support the student learning process and understanding of the financial aid award letters by having the students review the DecidED guides. Again, something that Miguel highlighted for us as well as doing the uploading the award letters. Really, that's just to take away the process time and administrative process that would be a burden for your staff to make sure that can be much more streamlined. And then you can also do follow-up tasks that include reflections on what the students are reviewing and checking for understanding that is more personalized, since the data outputs that you'll be viewing on DecidED will be tailored specifically from the student based on their needs, their demographics, and their selection and choices when they're looking at colleges. Just to wrap up, this is just a couple of ways DecidED can and is being used by partners to support students when it comes to the planning and financial aid. The great part about DecidED is that it can easily be integrated into supporting the work you're already doing, as well as the resources that can be leveraged to grow and to add to the college planning strategy you may be wanting to implement in your future programs. So it's really designed to free up advisors and partners' capacity by making the really key information easily accessible to both students and advisors, so that more time can be spent having the really important conversations with the right students at the right time. And on that, I really just want to highlight what Miguel just stated. We want to get to a position where students are able to own this process and make the decisions that are best fit for them, because we can have all the information, but what really matters is what is the decision that comes out of this information, right? So can it be valuable information at the right time for the right students so they don't fall through the cracks and they don't take on financial burden and stop out, which is what research has shown that's been happening when students make decisions that they're unaware fully of, and they arrive on campus and they recognize that bill's way too big, they can't afford it, and it's going to have big financial ramifications to their family, and they end up going stopping out of continuing their education. So we're excited to work with all new partners that want to collaborate a little bit more on this. Feel free to reach out to us, and I'll pass it back to Sarah to close us out for today's webinar.
Great. Thank you, John. And thank you so much, Miguel, for joining us and everybody else who contributed today and offered some questions. Just reiterating what John said, that we've seen some tremendous progress from the partners that we got to work with last year. And we're really excited in September of 2021 to be able to really expand our coverage and give a lot more students access to this information. It's always free. And it's intended to help students in any way we can, whether that's them working with us directly or them working with the assistance of an advisor like Miguel, who's really equipped to help guide them through their decisions. So thanks, everybody. And we will be back in about a month or so with some more new features that we can share. Awesome.